Evening, everyone. Welcome to a regular council meeting for February the 17th. We're going to start with the Lord's Prayer. It remains seated. Anybody wishes can join us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Dean, call to order, please.
Mover and a seconder, please.
Betty and Jennifer.
Moved by Councillor King, second by Councillor Gauthier, that the regular council meeting of February 17th, 2026 be called to order at 5:30 p.m.
All in favor? Carried. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bennett.
Present.
Reeve Watt.
Present.
Councillor Gauthier.
Present.
Councillor Hewitt.
Present.
Councillor Hughley.
Present.
Councillor King.
Present.
Councillor Wren. All members present except for Councillor Wren.
Thank you. Confirmation of agenda. Keith and Wendy.
Moved by Reeve Watt, second by Councillor Hewitt, that the agenda of the regular council meeting of February 17th, 2026 be approved as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Declaration of appearing interest. Seeing none. Motion for approval of January 20th meeting minutes. Oh, yeah. Betty and Jennifer.
Benny. Moved by Councillor King, second by Councillor Gauthier, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held January 20th, 2026 be approved as presented.
All in favor? Carried. February 3rd. Brian and Keith.
Moved by Councillor Hughley, second by Reeve Watt, that the minutes of the council and committee meeting held February 3rd, 2026 be accepted by council, and that the resolution from that committee become resolutions of council.
All in favor? Carried. Delegations, Donna Burns, please.
Is this on? I guess so.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Donna Burns. I'm from Whitewater Township, but I'm Vice President of the Ontario Landowners Association and President for the Renfrew County Landowners Association. The purpose of this delegation is to share with you information regarding this land in this county that has not been taught to many of you as part of your schooling and education. It's a part of history that for whatever reason has been purposely withheld from our knowledge, but it's well documented. In 2011, I heard for the first time in my life about Crown Letters patents. I didn't know what they were. I don't imagine many of you knew either, but they're just as significant as the treaties. They're a contractual agreement made between the Crown and the first settler. They are the ultimate authority that proves that land belonging to the settler was legally removed from the public inventory of the Crown and made private property. In order to bring settlement to this vast land, the Crown would offer free land grants to those people who wanted to come here. In order to get this land, the settler had to promise to clear part of it and build a house within 2 years. Once he fulfilled that commitment, he was then issued the Crown Land Patent from the Crown. These Crown Land Patents were not just limited to the first settler, they were land grants promised to all the heirs and assigns forever for that parcel of land, which means the land is still privately owned today and not part of the inventory of the Crown public land today. That is how private property became separated from Crown public property. It's important to note that these lands could not be granted to the settlers until after the Indigenous people had agreed to surrender them. These surrenders were documented and treaties between the Indigenous and the Crown were created. The same as the Crown Letters patents were made with the first settlers, they are both a contract of agreement made between the Crown and the other party. This brings me now to the treaties. This land in Renfrew County was surrendered on May 31st in 1819 as a provisional surrender, meaning subject to change later. It was numbered Treaty 27. 3 years later, it became a confirmed treaty, meaning it's firmly established on November 18, 1822, and numbered Treaty 27 1/4. In your attachments, you have the link that shows the research to these treaties, excuse me. Plus you have copies of the documents showing the index to find the treaties and the treaties themselves for this area, and I think I highlighted them for your information to make it easier to find. So we're being told and led to believe that this land we live on is unceded territory, meaning this land was never surrendered. As you can see, that's not true. It was surrendered. It was surrendered by the Mississauga Indian tribe in 1819 because they were the inhabitants at the time of the surrender. And this is documented in Indian Affairs as part of your attachment. The question is, why have we never been made aware of this information? It's a part of our history. Government controls what we learn in our education through the public school system. Yet they withheld this information, and now they are leading us to believe that this land was never surrendered. Their own Indian Affairs Department says otherwise. The Algonquin people did not have schools on the reserve. They attended the same schools as we did. The information about the treaties for this land you would think would have been important for them to know as well, but I'm quite sure they didn't learn anything about them either. I think they're the same way as what we were. They didn't know anything about treaties or crown land patents or private properties. And if you don't know anything, you won't question it. The historical research shows that the Algonquin people were nomadic people. They never lived in one place permanently. They moved around, and history shows that in the late 1600s and early 1700s, there was a lot of conflict between the Algonquin and the Iroquois over the fur trade. Beaver pelts were very popular. As a result, the Iroquois defeated the Algonquin people, also driving them from their land. That, along with the epidemic diseases like smallpox and tuberculosis, contributed to the loss of life with the Algonquin people, as well as other tribes and many European settlers. In the early 1700s, the majority of the remaining Algonquin people relocated to the Lake of Two Mountains near Montreal. This provided a safer environment compared to the volatile upper Ottawa Valley, which was heavily affected by Iroquois raids in the mid-17th century. Later, Anishinaabe Mississauga expansion fought against the Iroquois and started to expand their territory in this area. By the early 19th century, Mississauga people were occupying areas including present-day Lanark, Carleton, and Renfrew counties. The Rideau Purchase, 1819, on May 31st, 1819, representatives of the Mississauga Nation signed a treaty often referred to in the context of the Rideau Purchase or Treaties 27 and 27 1/4, surrendering over 2.7 million acres, which included land in the vicinity of the Rideau, Mississippi, Madawaska, and Bonnechere rivers. You will note on the maps in your attachments, the map from the Book of Treaties is the exact same area covered within the current Algonquin land claim map. Now this brings me to the UNDRIP Act, United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. This act was introduced by the Trudeau government in December 2020, right in the midst of the COVID pandemic lockdowns. It received royal assent on June 21st, 2021, and became incorporated into our Canadian law. And very few people were aware of this new legislation because we were heavily distracted with the lockdowns. Now, the background with the United Nations, they were founded in 1945, and its purpose was to maintain international peace and security after the devastation of World War II. In 2007, the United Nations introduced UNDRIP. That was during the reign of Prime Minister Stephen Harper between 2006 and 2015. At that time, 143 countries voted in favor of it at that time. 11 abstained and 4 countries voted against it, which included Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the States. The reason for voting against it were 2 main issues of concern. Was Article 32, where it stated Canada must establish the need for free, informed, and prior consent of the Indigenous people on land and resources before developing projects. This concern was that the Indigenous could veto any project from going forward. The other concern was with Article 26 on land disputes, where it is written, Indigenous people have the right to the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used or acquired. As you're now aware, we are getting quite familiar with the current Indigenous land title claims across the country. In 2009 and 10, Canada, under the pressure of the US, Australia, and New Zealand, agreed to consent to endorsing the UNDRIP. And to endorse it, it means that the country believes in the importance of the values set down, but will not sign it, nor will it be incorporated into their national laws. That was Canada's stance. Although the declaration is a non-legally binding document that does not reflect customary international law nor change Canadian laws, the endorsement gives Canada the opportunity to reiterate their commitment to continue working in partnership with the Aboriginal people in creating a better Canada. 2016, Justin Trudeau changed all that. He officially signed this document, which included removing Canada's objector status as a continuation of his 2015 election promise. Between that time and 2020, the Liberal government created the preamble to be included as part of this new legislative act that has now been incorporated as part of our Canadian law. And as you know, you often put a preamble with your new bylaws, and the preamble is the introductory statement that explains the purpose and the intent of this new law. In this case, on page 2 that you have of the UNDRIP Act in your attachment, I refer to you the following paragraph. Quote, whereas all doctrines, policies, and practices based on or advocating the superiority of peoples or individuals on the basis of national origin or racial, religious, ethnic, or cultural differences, including the doctrines of discovery and terra nullius, are racist, scientifically false, legally invalid, morally condemnable, and socially unjust. This statement implies that because the non-Indigenous people are of a different national origin with different religious beliefs, ethnic and cultural differences. In other words, that our ancestors believed we were superior to the Indigenous. I think today we are now referred to as white supremacists in this woke ideology. We supposedly treated them badly and stole their land from them. Doctrines of discovery because it was unclaimed land, terra nullius. It further implies that our sovereignty, our power of authority is invalid. Another paragraph written within this preamble states, whereas the government of Canada rejects all forms of colonialism and is committed to advancing relations with Indigenous peoples that are based on good faith and on the principles of justice, democracy, equality, non-discrimination, good governance, and respect for human rights. Colonialism means the policy of acquiring political control over another country, occupying it with its settlers, and exploiting it economically. These two statements are in disrepute of the Crown. For our own government to suggest that this federal government reject all forms of colonialism tells you exactly what this government plans for all of us. It is suggesting that we reject our existing laws, reject our cultures, our religious beliefs, reject our historical documents, and so on. And are we not seeing some of that happening today? Getting back to the Act itself, if you go down to read Article 46 of the Act, it states, nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, people, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or to perform any act contrary to the Charter of the United Nations or construed as authorizing or encouraging any action which would dismember or impair, totally or in part, the territorial integrity or political unity of sovereign and independent states. This section is in direct contrast to what the preamble states. The preamble's intent is to dismember our political unity when it states the government of Canada must reject all forms of colonialism. This act is dangerous, needs to be repealed. In numerous Supreme Court of Canada decisions, the courts refer to Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982, stating that the underlying purpose of Section 35 is the reconciliation of the pre-existence of Aboriginal societies, and that negotiation represents the best approach to advancing reconciliation. However, that's not what is written within Section 35. It states, quote, the existing Aboriginal and treaty rights of the Aboriginal people of Canada are hereby recognized and affirmed. It's important that we pay attention to the words written within the legislation, especially now when we are seeing new pieces of legislation that's intended to remove our rights. And this is why you need to be aware of the true historical facts. This land was surrendered in 1819 and falls under Treaties 27 and 27 1/4. And more people are starting to learn about it. The UNDRIP Act's intent is to reject all forms of colonialism. That means reject our history, reject our existing treaties like 27 and 27 1/4, reject our Crown land patents, and thus reject our private property ownership. How would you like to lose your private property? And now we are learning through the news media that private property ownership may be at risk of being lost through the Indigenous land title claims. Is that a coincidence? We need to be prepared. So far, we haven't been approached yet for this area, but now Quebec has. They filed their land title claim last October 2025. They're looking for 10,000 acres of Crown public land plus $500 billion. Imagine what happens to those properties within that claim. They're unable to develop any further. Everything gets frozen. Property values depreciate because of all this uncertainty. That's what's happening out in BC. Remember, the Constitution is the supreme law. Our Charter of Rights and Freedoms is an integral part of the 1982 Constitution. Our property rights are protected under Section 26 of the Charter. Our Crown land patents were acknowledged as trusts in the 1867 Constitution, the B&A Act, which is still in effect today. We need to know our history, and we need to know our laws. So I hope that helps you understand how important it is. This land is surrendered, and moving forward, we need to educate the people and try and figure out what's going on and why we're being told it is not. So I thank you for your time, and I appreciate your attention to this.
Thanks, Donna.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions of council? No. Okay, Keith, go ahead.
Just curious, have you shared this with the Algonquins of Pigwacknagon at all? Communication?
No, I haven't. I did hear that I've been speaking at other places, and I did hear they're now, they're hearing it's getting back to them and everything. And as far as the Algonquin people and their education, it only occurred to me today, because my daughter went to school with, and she was friendly with a lot of the kids from the reserve and everything. And it occurred to me today, they probably never learned about the treaty information either. So you have to wonder why this is now suddenly coming up. You know, this information was withheld, so why was it withheld from us? There seems to be, there's something going down, and I think we have to be prepared. And we should be able to question, you should be able to question your leaders, find out why this has been withheld, because it's documented. You can check yourself. You have the link to research this information yourself. The treaties are there. They're existing.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move down to reports. CEO report, any questions for Dean? Seeing none. Treasurer's report. I'm sorry, you folks, if you want to stay, you can stay if you wish, but if you came for Donna's presentation, you're welcome to go at any time. Anything?
No, I think maybe I just gonna add that, well, maybe you, with the auditor, just state that the auditors did do their audit, I guess.
Yeah, they were here last week for 4 days, so, and they're continuing their work now, so I'm waiting to find out when they're gonna come for their presentation once they're all done, but they've done a lot of work last week already.
Good. Okay, planner CEMC report?
Public Works.
Sorry?
Public Works first, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Public Works, Mark. Still busy, right?
Yeah, still winter operations again, a few centimeters of snow last night and crews were out. I know we talked about this at department heads today as our stockpile of road salt. We're have pretty much all but met our 25-26 season quota. The contract does allow for more. Our building is quite full, and we I think it was probably 3 weeks ago where our operations supervisor, we kind of made that decision that we're switching to sweet mix instead. So more sand in the mix than what salt is to try to stretch out a little bit further. But we still have a good stockpile here, and there is still the ability to get some, but we're hoping we can make do with what's here. So.
Okay, thank you. Keith?
Thanks. Just a question on that. So if there's more sand going out, come spring when it's all swept up, do we get to keep that sand? Like, and is it reusable at that time?
Because of the salt and that in it, it's not really, and other stuff, it's not really best to reuse it for winter sand. It just kind of becomes something that we work with the contractor to find a proper place to dispose of it. So it's, just because of what's in it, it's not the best to put back in the dome again. So it's not just the sand, there's other garbage and other things that are in with it, so.
Right, thanks.
Brian?
When Robinson Road was redone, there was some question about the size of the shoulder and the steepness of the shoulder, and this past week we had a transport rollover. Where is it at on as far as shouldering goes, and further up, with guardrails, they weren't at the steepest part where the gully is, and
Yeah, so we can look at it again. I think part of it is the snowbanks were pushed back because of drifting, and I think it gave a false sense of where the side of the road was. So the snow was pushed back several feet, and I think the vehicle maybe got too far over and like drove onto the snow, like thinking there was a shoulder there, which even if the shoulder was wider, we wouldn't have had it that wide. It was with the drifting, it was winged back further than normal, and I think that was kind of part of what happened on Robinson this week.
so is that maybe something in the future not to wing it back as far then to give that false sense
Yes,
there?
yeah, we did have that conversation, yeah. It's sometimes it's tough with the drifting, you try to get it back a bit further, but just because it kind of gives a very wide, flat platform, it looks like there's a base underneath it, and occasionally a vehicle can slip off and get over, so, yeah.
Okay. Mark, every year it happens, it seems to be more prevalent. This year with potholes and the condition of our roads with the up and down change in weather and coldness and the frost. And I do notice on 148, pretty much from Walmart to get back turnoff, it's really rough. Is there any way we could send MTO a letter?
Yeah.
Doing a request that either we do it and fill in some of these, like there's some ruts there that are 10, 15 feet long that really, I know it's still winter, and winter's certainly not over, but it could cause an accident at some point, the way the condition of the road. So I don't know if we can contact MTO and see if anything can be done.
For sure, yeah.
But it has to be done sooner than later, obviously.
Yeah, we have contacts with their, I'll say, dispatcher, which coordinates for their area maintenance contractor. So between both, we can kind of get a message sent out and see what their thoughts are as a first step. I know when there were issues a couple of years ago and they did do some patching, we were sending requests off to them for that. So we can do the same thing again. I know there's getting to be quite a few through that stretch, and I know the reconstruction's coming, but it's still going to be some time before they get out.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, for Mark, planners report. Anything for Lord? Obviously very busy. Keith?
Thank you. Item 3, where you mention the CIP and that community development officer, you're working with the person to advertise that. You're aware of the county portion there can also be added. I was looking at the stats at our last county meeting, and it seems we just have minimal applications to the CIP at the county level. Can you expand on that, please?
Yeah, so in terms of the county program, it's one that only pays us back for half of what we might have granted, so it's not one that's layered on top of in terms of if somebody gets a grant for ourselves. In the time frame from when they release the HYPE, which is what they call the county CIP, there was only one application that we have approved. We have seen a bit of a decrease in uptick in terms of people following through to file applications. I know that our community development officer has been out discussing, with different people or opportunities, or certainly when we have somebody approach us about doing something, then we think that might fit, we do reach back out. I think there's a combination of things. There are certainly some properties where people feel they don't want to get into taking money from the municipalities if they feel it may come with some other strings, even though it doesn't per se, but there is that. But then also just sometimes people just go out and do certain works. We did have a very good uptick right at the very beginning, so we certainly have given out money, but we will be looking at it again and bringing back some other options for council to consider for the extension of the program.
It seems it's very popular in the 17 corridor, but there was only like 2 real municipalities who did apply at the county level last year, and I just want to bring it to your attention that, like, if we can keep pushing.
Yes, and I do believe our community development officer does, try to solicit, but it in terms of, they need to be doing work that's eligible. Yeah, and from what I understand, I think we were one of the 2 municipalities, and the other municipality basically had all of the applications, but I think they're
That's
newer
right.
into the game as well, so whether that's part of the trend.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else for Laurie? Oh, seeing none, thanks, Laurie. Mayor's report, I really don't have a lot to report. I know we've had another meeting with the city regarding recreation, and Dean did cover some of it in his report, that the next step is going to be a survey going out to the public to get, the group went through many questions, and hopefully we get a big response. So once that's out there, I think it's later in February.
February 23rd.
Certainly encourage council to let people know that it's there, because we want their feedback before we go any further. So that's about it for that. Got a motion?
Yep. Move in a second.
Betty and Jennifer?
Moved by Councillor King, second by Councillor Gauthier, that the council receive the following reports from mid-January to mid-February 2026 at the regular council meeting of February 17, 2026. CO's report, treasurer's report, public works manager's report, planner CMC report, and the mayor's report.
All in favor? Carried. So I think you go down to business, and that would be the OMERS bill.
Yes, that's, Annie.
Annie?
Okay, so for the point on OMERS Bill 68, it comes from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for us to support a resolution and a letter to keep the existing governance model of OMERS. So what happened basically, the way that OMERS has been governed probably, I guess, for the past 20 years or so, is through 2 different boards. There's a sponsors corporation and administration corporation. And I guess a couple of years ago, they reviewed how they calculate the contribution rates. And then some associations, I guess, I don't know if they didn't like it or whatever, they requested that a governance review. So then the government went ahead with that and presented a report. And then they passed this bill where the government would be in charge of deciding on how OMERS is governed, so which could change completely the way that it's governed, and also possibly create extra expenses or for the municipalities or the employees as well. So they put together a resolution and a letter that municipalities can send to try and keep the governance model the way that it has been since it has been working. And yeah, so that's basically what it is. So I don't know if you had a chance to read through it, and if you wanted to have a discussion on it.
The only question I have is, who would have requested this? Did the government decide to jump in on this and instead?
That's my assumption, the government is trying to.
Keith?
It was a real hot topic at Roma this year, and I guess Minister Flack, he said several times, this program is not going to change just because we're doing it. There'll be no change to benefits, there'll be no change in how it has been operating, but there's still a doubt by a lot of the municipalities, and hence the package we're looking at tonight.
Yeah, there seems to be no mandate as to why. There's not really a real explanation of why the government's figuring, I guess they're probably thinking it'd be better governed, I guess, but in this case, Somers has done a pretty good job, and I think there's some value in leaving it the way it is. There's no reason why to, but that I'm aware of, so that's what the support is for.
Okay, thanks, Hank. Mover and seconder. Brian and Wendy.
Moved by Counselor Hughley, second by Counselor Hewitt. The council pass the following resolution, send it with the attached letter to Minister Housing and Municipal Affairs, Minister Finance, and MPP Billy Dano, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, whereas the Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement System, OMERS, pension fund serves over 1,000 employers and over 500,000 employees and retirees from diverse groups, including municipal governments, school boards, libraries, police and fire departments, children's aid societies, and electricity distribution companies. And whereas a long-standing jointly sponsored governance model with 2 corporate boards has provided stability, accountability, and fairness for both plan members and employers for more than 2 decades. Whereas the Government of Ontario has passed legislative changes to OMERS governance structure through Bill 68, and whereas the changes would replace the current OMERS Sponsors Corporation and new Sponsors Council that would lose its corporate status and independent resources, whereas the proposed model would allow pension decisions affecting municipal employers to be made without meaningful municipal oversight, increasing financial risk for municipalities and local taxpayers. And whereas municipalities are already under significant financial strain and cannot absorb additional pension costs without consequences for property taxes and local services. Therefore, be it resolved that the Township of Laurentian Valley does not support the legislative changes to the OMERS Act contained in Bill 68 and requests that the Government of Ontario reconsider the advisability of proceeding with the following changes. And further, be it resolved the Township of Laurentian Valley supports the Association of Municipalities of Ontario in calling on the Government of Ontario to maintain the current OMERS governance model with 2 corporate boards as a structure that would best deliver a long-term interest of municipalities, taxpayers, and employees. And be it further resolved that the resolution be circulated to Minister Flack, the Honourable Beth Valvedy, Minister of Finance, MPP Billy Deno, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario.
All in favor? Carried. Annie, again, financial support for the Ottawa Valley Historical Society.
Yes, so as you remember, we did have a discussion about this during the budget deliberations. So they had sent a request for a financial request for $10,000 to help with their operations for 2026. And there were many questions and I guess more information that was needed for council to really make a final decision on it. They have sent back some information which was included here. So in the new letter, they don't specify a specific amount. They just mention that they would request a financial amount in whatever the township would like to give. So just to mention that because there was no decision made at budget time, it was not added to the budget. And therefore, if you do accept to give an amount, whichever that may be, it would be kind of going over and above our budget for grants to others, just to keep that in mind.
Is there any money left in the grants for others, or is that spent?
Well, it was pretty much tagged at budget time, so yeah, it would be going
Be it
over.
over and above.
Okay. Brian?
That was my question, is how much is in grants to others?
Keith?
Do we not have a bylaw on this to guide us as to that we should receive a request by a certain date?
We don't see this one as being part of that. It's kind of more of like a standing body of local groups. It's kind of similar to our recreation, Allison Fraser, Mixburg Ball. It fits into that category more so than just run of the mill. It's more of an annual contribution. We've been given annual contributions to them for some time, and then we stopped and we'd had done it before. So it's not. We don't see it as into that policy. After discussion with Chris and Annie, we see it as a separate item. I mean, we could put it through there, I guess, but those values are pretty high for what Chris's budget is. I mean, I don't know if you want to just quickly comment, Chris, on your allocation.
Yeah, so essentially through the existing policy that we do have, it kind of would not allow it in a few different ways. One would be that the envelope that they'd be looking for potentially is over 25% of the funds that we have available. The other thing is that through the policy and that we've been using for grants to others, they would require the financials, and we haven't really looked at that, so that would be kind of hard to do as well. And then it also just really doesn't encapsulate, like Dean said, what we're looking for from that. Grants to others is maybe something we've got to define a little bit better, but for now, essentially, it's not a sponsorship, it's not a one-time thing. It's either something we are going to fund year to year or a temporary basis, but it is in that group of the Mixburg and all those other groups like that, and that's the defining feature of that, essentially.
I guess the only thing that I have another question on is that there was feedback sent that wasn't on time, or that what are you going to do with the money? And it came back still no direction as to what they were going to do for it. So I think there should be some explanation as to what they're going to use it for. They must have something included in their budget for the year.
I guess my question maybe to Annie or Chris, if you remember, did they initially, when they put the initial requests back at budget time, I guess, which didn't have the financials and all that, but had they put an amount and what they were going to use it for? Do you remember? Was that there?
Not sure, but I think.
Yeah, Betty? Maybe Betty remembers.
Was it for
In here, they said
5,000?
use of funds, report to Laurentian Council, the $10,000 municipal grant from Township was put toward the preservation and storage of the artifacts and archival material of our shared region. So it kind of goes through some of the items that they have. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really hone down on exactly, but kind of a general preservation of items.
And I think what you just mentioned is, that, as they say, it's an ongoing thing that they do. When they have the money, they redo the artifacts, et cetera. I know we gave them 10,000 last year, which is more than we've ever given before. But they were having financial hardship last year, and that's why we did give that, and they did request extra money. If council wishes, I think this should be an item that is passed every year with a dollar amount attached to it, like Dean said, with recreation, whatever. It's certainly, it is in the city, but it does have a lot of Laurentian Valley information in it. A lot of Laurentian Valley people are members at it. So I think we just need to come with a dollar amount, but maybe we can pick a number for tonight, and then Chris can come back later on with a suggestion of what it could be every year. But if council wishes, we can pick a number tonight, and I know it's gonna go into extra expenses, but I'm sure Annie will find somewhere to tuck it in. So I don't know, 2,500, 5,000, any feel of what? Five? Okay. Motion to that?
Yeah, move it, Senator Keith?
Keith and Betty? Jennifer?
Yeah, sorry. I'm just a little skeptical on why we're giving $5,000 towards something that we don't know what they're using it for. That still never came back of what they wanted the money for, and we're just about to hand them over $5,000.
Well, I think they, as I read through this, it talks about all the different projects that they work on.
That
So-
they did work on in 2025 with the 10,000 that we gave them. To
Yeah,
me,
I
they
guess
were-
they're just saying we've included a report detailing our work at the Heritage Center. I don't know how much, I don't know if they want to dedicate $5,000 to one project, or do we want to ask them that question?
I, to me, just don't feel comfortable handing over $5,000 to say, here's 5,000 to, I
Yeah.
just, we have no answers.
Well, it
They
does
came
say
in
in-
February 9th.
Later on, it says, in 2026, a municipal grant from the township would continue to support artifact care and help us develop new exhibits to encourage visitors. The Heritage Center would be happy to collaborate with the township to create an exhibit about the 25 years of Laurentian Valley Township, or create displays of your history at 2026 event. So maybe that's something we could ask them to put some of that money towards and create something for Laurentian Valley there. Wendy?
I'm kind of thinking the same as Jennifer tonight, just like it's, there's a lot of unknowns, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they did get a significant grant as well, just recently.
Yeah, I believe it was like 40-something thousand to prepare, but it was to prepare the roof
Yeah, prepared
through a
everything.
trillion grant.
Yeah.
Last year's, I mean, the main cause last year was operationally. They were at the point where they were gonna shut their doors because they didn't have operational money, because through the pandemic, they suffered a lot of loss of wages and, or loss of funds. So I think that was the reason, and I think that's the same thing as now they're still struggling to operate. They're starting to put more programming together, but I think some of this money can be assured will be part of the operation. That's what seems to be gathered here.
Yeah, so council's wishes, if you wanna.
Well, we have a motion, so we can put on.
Yep.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Reeve Watt, second by Councillor King, that the Council of Township of Laurentian Valley approve the request from the Ottawa Valley Historical Society to provide financial support to the Ottawa Valley Historical Society in the amount of $5,000, and further that the amount be funded from the 2026 budget line grants to others.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? Okay, carried.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can we readdress this in the future again, if it's going to be an annual
Yeah,
item?
like I kind of said earlier, we're gonna, maybe Chris could do a little bit of work, background work on it, and when.
Yeah, so we're actually also looking to incorporate this in the overall policy, because it is a little bit of a gap. And we may have something even as soon as next council meeting to kind of start the wheels moving in that direction of what we're thinking about that, so that we're ready for next year for these kinds of things, so that everything is all encompassed in one, and that council has the opportunity to say and express their thoughts about that, so that we can make sure moving forward that everything is is good, basically.
And if we do that, I with the other ladies on this fact that going forward, it'd be, like you said, like the same as the rec centers, they have to provide a budget and where their money's going, and so you have an idea of, you're not just giving them money and they're tucking it away.
Yep, we can talk to them about that as well, Chris.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Public Works tender results. Mark, please.
Good evening, everyone. A couple of reports tonight. The first is for the approval of various public works and property tenders for the 2026 season. We had various tenders called on January 14th, 2026. They included bulk fuel tender, a tandem truck and plow unit, a 1-ton chassis cab truck, paving works, crack sealing, supply and application of granular A, winter sand, and double surface treatment. All tenders closed on February 5th, and as following our procurement policy, we advertised them in various locations, including local papers, township website, and through social media. And through sharing when things get on social media, there's tendering companies that pick up our tenders, like Merck's and the Ottawa Construction Association, and they reshare them out again, and it does help get a bigger market for us. So tenders were received for all contracts, and this there was an increase in the number of documents that were requested this year compared to last, and in total we did receive 25 submissions for the multiple contracts that went out. We did have a public tender opening immediately following the close here in the council chambers on January 5th at 11 a.m. The project deadlines do vary, with the road works being completed by the later part of the summer of 2026, and staff are working hard to get the ball rolling already and get some of the work done, and we're already, I'll say, several months ahead of we were last year, and hoping that we can, like I said, get things done in the late part of the summer and stay out of the fall season this year in some more favorable conditions for paving and some of that work. Plow truck that we tendered for, its delivery date right now is scheduled for the first week of November, which is fine. Hopefully we don't see much winter weather by that time, so timing is good. The 1-ton truck delivery is May of 2026, and then it'll be outfit with a dump body on it, but still it'll be in service for a significant part of the summer. Our operational services capital budgets were mainly within budget. Prices remain stable, similar to 2025. We did see some substantial increases a few years ago where some commodities were anywhere from 50 to probably almost 100% increases as we sort of came out of the pandemic. And there are a few goods like granular and winter sand that are actually cheaper this year than what they were in 2025. So some of the prices are starting to go back to where they were a few years ago. So that's positive to see that. Something new is we haven't done a fuel tender in several years, so we did do a bulk fuel tender. As part of it, we did some provisional supply for heating propane and diesel fuel for a couple of our recreation centers. With the cost of propane, I know some of the recreation centers were in the range of 95 cents a liter. Cost at time of tendering, and it does move, was down to just below 70 cents. So some of them would have a savings of 25 cents plus per liter. So that's pretty substantial for some of the rec associations. So for the most part, the fuel is dropping, and it's a long-term contract, which is great for, I said, some of the rec associations that use the commodities, and for us here at the township office. Something that we're also adding is a card lock system to better manage and track the fuel here. Right now we're on a paper tracking sheet, and that's wonderful when it's pouring rain outside and you're trying to write down your information. So basically vehicles are equipped with a card. They input the ID number, kilometers on the vehicle unit number, and it's kind of an automatic tracking system. And we built that into the tender this time for here to make things much easier to track. And I know that it was something that, talking with the operators, that they were looking for, and something that would be better than what we were doing. So that's something that'll be probably rolled out in the next month or so once we get going with it. So that's an addition to have. With winter operations in the winter sand, we did estimate 3,500 tons of sand to go into our building. With the longer winter, there is the likelihood that we may need more sand, but we do have a fixed operating budget of $290,000 for 2026. So with the amount of salt and sand, we could potentially be over, but it just really depends on how much sand we need and if we do need salt moving into that sort of fourth quarter of 2026. And I know it's a number that we do talk a lot about at budget time, and we have rolled it back in a few years, and you know, we've kind of agreed that there are reserves or contingencies to kind of catch that difference. So it's been a difficult winter this year, and some of that money has a good part of it's already been used, but we can't not treat the roads, and we're trying to, as I mentioned in my report earlier, trying to use more sand than salt and try to cut back on some of those costs right now. The one tender that did come in over budget, and for the price tag, it was slight, as we did have $390,000 budgeted for the tandem plow truck, and it came in at just over $398,000. There are bid summaries that are attached, and I do have some comparative numbers from previous years and information there. And so, as I had mentioned, the projects are all being recommended by staff for award. There are sufficient funds to cover the operating and the capital, with some options for the tandem plow truck. The budget amount, as I mentioned, was set at $390,000. The actual price is $398,199.21, or approximately $8,200 over budget. I know the plan for this, when the budget was passed, was that there would be a debenture loan to finance. And speaking with the treasurer, she had noted that depending on the results of this year's year end, we could look at options as paying a portion of it if there is a surplus, and to lower that debenture amount, and then that would be discussed after the audit is complete. I don't know if anybody has any questions or...
Mark, question on salt. On the news a couple of weeks ago, there was municipalities that were running out of salt, and they're doing what we already were doing, mixing salt and sand. Why was there a shortage of salt? Because you said tonight earlier, if we need more, we can get more.
Yeah, so I think it just depends on every municipality's contract and what the allowance is for overages. We've been part of a county cooperative contract for a few years. There was a 5-year term that ended, and we're into a new term this year. Our allotment per season is 2,500 tons, which we're at 2,400 and change right now. But the contract does allow for 100% over that, so we could request 5,000 tons of salt. I think the supplier is cautious on that, but the salt dock that we normally pull from is empty. But we have been advised that there is still salt in Montreal, and that there is an availability to get the salt from there. So I think it's just, it depends on the clauses in the contract on what each municipality has. But as I said, our dome is quite full, and we're doing what we can to hang on to that salt and hopefully not have to purchase any more for this season.
So is it cheaper to run with salt and sand than it is straight salt?
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there
yeah.
must be a standard that you must stay at, right?
Yes, yeah. And so like if we were into a freezing rain event, we would be pure salt because the combination of the sand and salt don't work. But in the most part now, the sun is warmer, the sand will help attract the sun. It puts some grit and traction on the road. So it does work better at this time. But it's just we're sort of hanging on to the salt, and we will use it if we have to in a freezing rain event. But yeah, it's we're meeting minimum maintenance standards, and it sometimes takes a little bit longer for the sand and salt mix to work than what pure salt would. But there's still traction, roads are still safe, and we're making do with what's there.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from council? Keith?
Just a comment, when you look at all of the tender contracts out there and you compare your budget amount to our results, you're bang on, and I think that's good, and it gives good confidence towards our budget. So thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, we do, at the end of the construction season, a lot of the contractors will kind of already give an inkling. We're up a few percent next year. We deal with a lot of the same suppliers, and going through our budget process, we do consult with them and say, hey, where are we at? So we're not just guessing, we're trying to kind of work with what's there, and we're always looking at ways to save money. I know with something in our budget, we're actually paving more kilometers of road this year and using less money because we're looking at doing some milling operations, which are cheaper than kind of some full reconstruction in places. So I know it's kind of that old saying, do less with more, but we're trying to do that and stretch the dollars where we can.
Okay, good. Got a motion?
Yes, move ahead.
Brian and Jennifer?
Moved by Councillor Hughley, second by Councillor Gauthier, that the Council of Township of Laurentian Valley approve the following tenders for Public Works and Property Department: LVPW 2026-01 bulk fuel, LVPW 2026-02 tandem truck and plow unit, LVPW 2026-03 one-ton chassis cab, LVPW 2026-04 paving works, various locations, LVPW 2026-05 crack sealing, various locations, LVPW 2026-06 supply of an application of granular A at various locations, LVPW 2026-07 winter sand, and LVPW 2026-09 double surface treatment, Lubitz Road and Rands Road.
All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Mark. We'll move on to our next report, which is the sale of surplus lands.
Yeah, so this report is a recommendation that Township Council approve the sale of the municipal property known as 576 Brewham Avenue to Reed's Dairy Company Limited in the amount of $126,001 plus HST. So in September of 2025, Township Council deemed the municipal property on Brewham Avenue as surplus to the municipality's needs, and did instruct staff to sell the policy as per our sell the property as per our policy FIN 19 for the sale and disposition of surplus land. We did have a report completed by Rivington Commercial Appraisers, which identified various features of the property and appraisal value. A tender was called on January 14th of 2026, and again was advertised in various papers on our social media. And the minimum bid price in the tender was set at $125,000 and required a minimum 20% bid deposit. We did have 9 bid packages that were requested during the tender period. We had a public viewing that the chief building official and myself attended on January 29th, and we did have 2 prospective bidders tour the property to view the inside. As of the closing deadline, we did receive 1 tender submission for the purchase of the surplus lands. A public tender opening was held here on February 12th at 11 a.m. following the close. And a single bid was received from Reed's Dairy Company Limited in the amount of $126,001. And the bid did include the required minimum 20% bid deposit. And there being that the bid was higher than the amount of the 125 that was requested, and there were no conditions or anything imposed by the seller, that we are recommending that council proceed with the sale of the old fire hall property to the Reed's Dairy Company Limited.
That's good. Wendy? Okay. Seconder, Keith?
Okay, moved by Councillor Hewitt, seconded by Councillor Watt, that the Council of the Township of Laurentian Valley approve the sale of municipal property known as 576 Brewham Avenue to Reed's Dairy Company Limited in the amount of $126,001 plus HST.
All in favor? Carried. Now, Annie, maybe when you get the final answer from our accountants, you said maybe any surplus could go towards the truck, but maybe we could look at using some of this money too, depending on how much the surplus is, right?
Okay. We can check that.
Okay. Down to community development. Mr. Chris.
Okay, so before you here, I have two reports on some recent grants. Typically, we'd bring these through the committee process, but just given when the transfer payment agreement needed to be signed, and when we got them, we had to put these ones through right now, immediately then to the bylaw, just so we can make sure we were compliant with essentially what they were looking for from the signings. And so before you have two reports, we'll start with the Housing Enabling Water Services Fund. So just so council's aware, very quickly, this was quite a process to get this. It started in 2024. We applied for this grant under the first intake for the sanitary pumping station, and we were unsuccessful. We then tried again for the second intake after speaking with the ministry to try to improve our chances. We applied a second time, and unfortunately, we found out in November of 24 that we didn't get it. Still then, we kept trying. We found out that there might be some more funding coming out. We weren't sure, but we were asked by the ministry to essentially revise and provide a document just in case. We talked further with the ministry. We further revised our application. And as a result of that, we eventually were successful in our third attempt for a grant in the amount of $570,312.50. Really the only thing for council to know about that on the financial side is that it is a proportional 73-27 split, and that we will be responsible for the $210,937.50 for the total project cost of $781,250. I believe we already accounted for that, so essentially that's already accounted for, and really all I'll be looking for then is, my recommendation would be obviously that we sign that agreement and that we proceed so that we can send back the transfer payment agreement signed so that we can start receiving money for this project.
Make sure you send it by peer later or something.
Yes.
Keep track. Any questions, comments? It's great news, of course, we all know about it, but it's a good chunk of change for us to spend, but much smaller than it could have been, so. Mover and seconder, Betty and Brian.
Moved by Councillor King, second by Councillor Hughley, that the Council of Township of Laurentian Valley enter an agreement with the Province of Ontario Minister of Infrastructure to undertake the Highway 148 lift station installation project, and that the bylaw 2026-02-007 as presented be forwarded to the bylaw section of February 17, 2026 regular council meeting for enactment.
All in favor? Carried? And the second grant.
Okay, so more good news. We essentially, the township has been successful in its application to the pothole prevention and repair program. The township has received $38,000. That is 100% funded. to essentially use towards pothole prevention and repair strategies. And essentially, the grant is 100% funded. And all we really need to do is sign the transfer payment agreement, and then that money will come to us right away, so that Mark and the team can essentially use that for those various projects. And my recommendation would also be to sign that agreement so that we can get that moving and get some funds towards that project.
That's great. Chris, another good piece of good news. A mover or seconder, Keith and Jennifer.
Moved by Reeve Watts, second by Councillor Gauthier, that the Council of Township of Laurentian Valley enter into an agreement with the Province of Ontario Ministry of Transportation to undertake various pothole prevention and repair strategies in the Township of Laurentian Valley, and that bylaw 2026-02008 as presented and be forwarded to the bylaw section of the February 17, 2026 regular council meeting for enactment.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Chris. Under correspondence, county Renfrew budget. I guess, Keith, 6.8%, that's gotta be the highest I've ever seen from the county. Or it's gotta be close.
It's a big one, yeah. It's one of those that, with what they've included, you're in favor of, but you're not in favor of the cost, but it has to be done. And a lot of it is the heart and the homelessness and.
Yes. No, for sure. It's tough. Any budget is tough. Any comments, questions on the county budget? No? Okay. Bylaws. You want to move in a second?
Yes, please.
Brian and Betty.
Moved by Councillor Ugly, second by Councillor King, that the following bylaws be enacted and passed and be read a first, second, and third time and be numbered and signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation and be engrossed in this bylaw book the 17th day of February 2026. Bylaw 2026-02004 to amend bylaw 2023-09049 expenses and allowances of mayor, reeve, members of council, officers, persons appointed to local boards and committees for the Township of Laurentian Valley. Bylaw 2026-02005 enter into agreement with Miller Waste Systems, Inc. for collection and recyclable materials for commercial and industrial. Bylaw 2026-02006 consolidated tariff of fees bylaw. And bylaw 2026-02007 to authorize entering into an agreement between the Province of Ontario and Ministry of Infrastructure under the Housing Water Systems Fund to undertake that one Highway 148 lift station installation project by the Township of Laurentian Valley. Bylaw 2026-02008 to authorize entering into an agreement between the Province of Ontario and the Ministry of Transportation under the Pothole Prevention and Repair Program to undertake various pothole prevention and repair strategies in the Township of Laurentian Valley.
All in favor? Carried. Council acknowledgements. Keith and Brian.
Mine isn't an acknowledgement, but we discussed earlier, we've been getting a bunch of emails about the Algonquin Trail again, and my question are probably going to Keith here. How many people, the trail is open, how many know that there's actually hours from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.? And, you know, people are leaving the bars and restaurants and going home after 11 o'clock. Is it known? And I guess my question is then, how many fines have been issued for outside of those hours? Because there is a $220 fine for being on the trail during hours that it's closed. And if it's never, if a fine's never been issued, you know, why is it there? And it could be 10,000, but if it, do we have a list of how often it's imposed and how often in our township?
There are reports that come back through. Initially, I guess the enforcement bylaw, which is Protect 5, who's doing the job, they were more or less just checking the validity of licensing and insurance to make sure that they were able to be on the trail, and they were a little bit easy on the citations. Lately, it's been starting to pick up now, and some of the stuff after the trail is closed at 11 o'clock at night, you've still got these individuals that are going down and they're maybe extra loud noise and so on and so forth. The trail committee, the recreational trail committee has been working on this. They're looking at maybe even updating some of those citations and starting to enforce more. Because when it's after hours, it's bothering. I mean, I'm getting complaints very often, and I'm sure others are. I've talked to some of the other councillors here tonight, and the same thing is going on. They've increased the number of hours for enforcement from 15 last year to 26 or 25 hours this year. After the hours, enforcement's going to be out anytime between 7 and 11 doing their regular checks. After that, they've been advised to call the OPP. And the OPP, by the sounds of it, if they're available, they will respond. And if they're not, it's, by the time they get there, it's going to be too late. It's a tough position for the people, but the Recreational Trails Committee is trying the best they can.
I think part of the issue with after hours operation of vehicles on there, the OPP, even if they get the call, by the time they get there, they're long gone.
That's right.
And it's the same as speeding. It's very difficult to control. Not making excuses or whatever, but I don't know how this has been going on since the trail opened for how many years now, and it hasn't changed. You know, you still got the complaints at night. You do get, it sounds like the county's increasing their staff. And are they allowed to issue fines now?
Yes,
Okay.
the bylaw officers are, yep.
Okay. But I never hear from anyone that they've seen them. I'm not saying they're not, but I'm on the trail 2-3 times a week, and I've yet to see anybody enforcing any of the rules. So just different times. I don't know.
Okay, the next time we get a report at our Trails Committee, I will make sure that, share it with you.
Yeah, for sure.
So you say 25 hours of enforcement. Is that 25 hours over the entire season, over the entire trail
Per
in Renfrew
week.
County?
It's per week.
Per week?
Yeah, and it could be over the entire trail, yes.
So it could be like 3 days at 8 hours a day. And I'm sure they're out there, and I'm certainly not second guessing them, but to the average Joe, they're not seen out there very often. But again, it's a big area to cover. You know, it's the same as the OPP. They have a big area to cover too. And what do we have? 1.5, 2 OPP on average every 24 hours?
But it's just like the parking issue of on-street parking. We talked about, you got to lay a few fines to get the matter rectified. I'm outside on the weekend and I'm hearing machines flying by on the trail with their pipes just echoing. Like the noise is unbelievable. And, these people need to get some fines to get the situation rectified. And the same with after hours. Like we need to do some enforcement to
You're
correct the problem.
absolutely right, and that's one of the items that they're looking at now, to measure it, and to legally enforce that, you have to be able to measure the decibels with a regulated type thing. So they're looking at all this equipment with Protect 5 to see what they can do and start looking at these aftermarket mufflers and whatever. So yeah, it's annoying, and I mean, the sound does travel.
Absolutely.
I can I was speaking to somebody on the weekend and they got pulled over by the OPP on the trail last week. So I know that the OPP was out there, not even Protect. So they're out there too doing their own ride checks and different checks. They were checking for paperwork in this case. That's what they got asked for, but certainly checking that stuff. So there is enforcement, and I know it's been happening because I've had lots of conversation with the county. But I mean, it's hit and miss, and when you do it in the morning, it's not a good time. But then some people speed in the morning. Like, you just don't know. There's a lot of time to cover, a lot of trail to cover, and a lot of things to do. So it's a tough one. There's no doubt. But maybe the signage. I mean, you mentioned I forgot that it was closed at a certain time. I wasn't even aware. I don't know how much signage is out there.
There
to
is
say
signage on the
there
trail.
is, yeah, okay, that's
There
good.
is signage. The OPP was down on Burns Drive a couple of weeks ago. Spent a couple hours down there, but again, like Dean said, they're probably there for the afternoon or whenever, right? But not
Taylor was down there just that same weekend, and he was just sitting in his truck, and I guess everybody coming through, they didn't maybe come to a complete stop, but they certainly slowed down, and then they crossed the intersection with ease, so.
I can tell you that my wife and I were on the trail down, going through Burns Drive last week, and we had traffic go by us that I didn't even see the brake light on at some of the intersections. Just straight through. So the neighbors are correct. The people are breaking laws, and
They have an absolute right to complain. They
Absolutely.
really do.
It's just frustrating. You can't be there all the time. Jennifer?
Do we know how many people work for ProTech?
The number of bylaw officers, I don't know.
Like, could they get more? Could we have a night shift? Could we, I don't know how, I mean, they fly by my house at.
There's no particular time of day that they actually do. They may vary to try and figure when it is going to be busy to be out and check. But I think you're going to see more visibility of them and maybe hear more about citations in the next little while.
Because the county is just buying hours, so they've bought 25 hours a week, and that's what they're manning. So if the county wants to put it to 50, then they'll do 50.
Brian?
I guess the question is, are they just driving around, or are they actually doing enforcement? And that's what we need to see, is more enforcement. And
It's very difficult to get that information that tickets have been issued.
Yeah.
The OPP doesn't just divulge that information. It would be nice, maybe, I know we still don't have a staff sergeant, but maybe we could request an update from the OPP and ask them how it's going on the
But I
trails.
think ProTech is there too. I think ProTech in this
ProTech is
case,
there.
ProTech is the one you need to get a
Right.
report. And maybe it's in their report. Maybe they say we've issued this amount of citation, but if you can pass it along next time, that's
I will do.
good.
Okay, you're good? Everybody's, Wendy?
I know we've all been getting communication from people that live in that area of concern. Is anyone actually answering this individual from the county to say that they are working? I just haven't seen that response.
Chair of the Recreational Trail Committee usually responds.
Great, thank you.
Normally, when the county responds, as in some of our emails we've gotten, Taylor from the county, he doesn't CC council members back when he does respond. So as long as we know he's responding, then.
That's all I wanted to know. I didn't need to be copied. I just wanted to know that someone was responding.
Yep.
Thank you.
I know two weeks ago, I did send out to it yourself and Taylor and all the other committee members the complaints that I had received, and that was brought forward at the meeting so that everybody is getting the feedback on the committee.
Good. Okay, anything else from council? No, okay, seeing none. Note and file,
Yep. Move in a seconder.
Wendy and Brian?
Moved by Counselor Hewitt, second by Counselor Hughley, that the item not specifically addressed by motion of the council in the regular council meeting of February 17, 2026 be noted and filed accordingly.
All in favor? Okay. Confirmatory bylaw, Betty and Jennifer.
Moved by Counselor King, second by Counselor Gauthier, that there be resolved that the Council of the Township of Laurentian Valley approves confirmatory bylaw 2026-02009 as having been introduced, read a first, second, and third time, and the said bylaw be numbered and signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation the 17th day of February 2026.
All in favor? Carried. Adjournment. Keith, Wendy?
Moved by Reed Watt, second by Counselor Hewitt, that the regular council meeting of February 17, 2026 be adjourned at 6:45 PM.
All in favor? Okay, thank you, everybody. Good night.